little bit of housekeeping. There's a pre-poll on the app and then post-poll. So if you can access from the app the poll, that will be helpful for us. And before I go on to introduce the topic a little bit and our esteemed panelists, let me give the disclaimer at the very start. This is a serious, a very detailed topic, very close to our heart. And so, to do justice to it, I've made some notes, and please do forgive me if you find me referring back to my notes more than that is required. And with that, I don't know how many Game of Thrones fans are in this room, but a wise man once said that if you are spending more on your coffee than your cyber safety, you ought to be hacked. But that is, the lightest it can get. It gets darker, it gets sinister from here. Everyone in this room, or I would say almost everyone, has at one point sent some message, some material, which they should not have sent, which was inappropriate. And you are all sitting safe here because that material did not go to a predator, that material did not go to a blackmailer. And this is the extent of the problem. Ladies and gentlemen, cyber world was said to be the world of future. The future is already here. We are living in the future. The winter is not coming. The winter is here, and it is really dark. Forgive me, there will be hope. But to handle this very complex, multi-layered problem of online child sexual abuse, we have with us a very star-studded panel, and let me welcome them now. Our first panelist is Ms. Sara Ahmad, who is a member of the Provincial Assembly and the chairperson of Child Protection and Welfare Bureau, Government of Punjab. She is truly a national leader in her field and has done phenomenal, groundbreaking work for which she has received Tamga Imtiaz in 2024. Please welcome Ms. Sara. Our next panelist is Mr. Omar Bashir Maniar, who is an advisor in an FCDO project known Upscale, and he advises on online child sexual abuse. Mr. Maniar is a rule of law expert with over 12 years of experience in criminal justice reform, focusing on improving access to justice for vulnerable groups across Pakistan. He has worked with Adam Smith since 2018 and with Legal Society before that. Please welcome Mr. Omar. The next panelist is Dr. Asha Bedar, who is a clinical psychologist, trainer, and researcher. She has a PhD from the University of Melbourne, Australia, and has over 27 years of experience working with individuals, groups, and professionals in justice, health, and social sector. Her work focuses on gender-based violence, abuse and trauma, post-disaster, psychologist support, and human rights. And our final panelist is the superstar of the police service of Pakistan, the man solely responsible for over 80% of all digital and all initiatives in Punjab Police, none other than Mr. Ahsan Younas, the MD of Punjab Safe City Authority. Mr. Ahsan Younas is also a graduate of Harvard University. Thank you very much for being here on this panel, ladies and gentlemen. Children are living two lives. They are living in the physical world, and they are also living their entire life in the virtual world. They are on WhatsApp for their homeworks. They are connecting with friends through technology. They are interacting with their teachers through technology. And while they are doing all that, we have TikTok, WhatsApp, and all kinds of social media platforms and internet-based applications where they interact with everyone, and most of the time where they interact with strangers as well. Technology is here and it's going to stay here, but how we deal with its dangers, which specifically for this panel is the online child sexual abuse, which happens, which takes the form of sextortion, which takes the form of bullying, and so many other, I mean, so CSAM, the material that is generated, shared by children themselves, or through generated by AI. Now, when we talk about children, the first concept comes into mind someone 10, 11 years old, but no, a 17-year-old is a child and really, in danger, really there to be exploited. And the national scene is that there's a federal agency which deals with this, and then there are provincial law enforcement agencies and departments with deal with this. So, without further delay, just to frame our first round, which is something around where does the system break, and is an attempt to kind of identify the fault lines and identify them honestly. So we have strong laws, but limited capacity to implement them. And we have then these different jurisdictions. And we have these amazing panelists who are heading departments and doing amazing work. So this round essentially is identifying the gaps. And my first question would be to Omar, that legally and institutionally, where does the pipeline collapse first, starting from detection to child protection?
Right. I think before the legal part, I think just sort of socially, I think it breaks down at the very beginning, right? Which is to recognize online child abuse or the risks to children online as being actual real risks. And as parents, as caretakers, as educators in the room, recognizing that the online world is real. And I think, so, starting off from there, and then the fact is that our legal regime has evolved over time, and it's evolved reactively. And so when you think of child abuse legislation, or how does the state respond, it's covered under the Pakistan Penal Code, which covers actual physical abuse. It's covered under the Prevention of Electronic Crimes Act, which covers online abuse. It's covered under various child protection agencies. So in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, there is a provincial law that covers both. And so law enforcement, or if I were to flip it, as a victim or a survivor of online child sexual exploitation and abuse, the first question is, who do I even go to report the crime? Do I go to the police? In Punjab, they don't have jurisdiction over cybercrime. Do I go to a federal agency like the National Cybercrime Investigation Agency? They're not everywhere. They have 15 offices around the country. Do I go to a child protection and welfare service? Do I call up one of the various helplines that we have that are not interconnected with each other? So I think it breaks down at the very beginning, which is we don't recognize how to keep children safe online, or what is the risk to children online as parents, as supervisors of children. And then as a state, we don't really have a cohesive policy across the various state institutions. And just to explain the complexity of this, I tried to catalog how many different agencies or government departments are responsible for keeping children safe online. And it starts with, at the federal level, it's the Ministry of Interior has a role, Ministry of Human Rights has a role, the National Commission on the Rights of the Child has a role, your federal investigation agency has a role, the National Cybercrime Investigation Agency has a role. At the provincial level, it's going to be obviously provincial police, provincial child protection welfare bureaus, your provincial prosecution department. You've got educators, so the education department, the health department, and somehow we have to figure out a way to get all of them to work together, talking and dealing with a crime that most people will not even want to report, right? So, I think that's the kind of landscape that we're operating in, with breaking points and failure points sort of all across the chain.
Thank you, Umar. So, taking a cue from here, the federal jurisdiction, the provincial jurisdiction, and then the question of capacity. NCCIA has 200 people to investigate more than 100,000 complaints. And then we have Punjab Police, where we have different capacity, but problems of jurisdiction. Going straight to Mr. Ahsan, what capacities we now have in the Punjab Safe City Authority in this regard, and what part of the system do you think is most mismatched with the scale of digital abuse?
Thank you very much. It's my honor to be here, and I'm so grateful to the organizers and Humayun sir for inviting me here and giving us an opportunity to share what we are trying to do and what we think about this issue. I will just need a minute extra for taking you all back in July 2024, when we launched our first virtual center for child safety in this country, and we attached that center with 1.5. We made sure that we had a very strong collaboration with the Child Protection Bureau. Madam Sara is here. She's 24/7 service and the 24/7 presence of officers round the clock on the service was available. And this around 18 months or so, together we have processed more than 107,000 cases related to children. 51,000 children were reunited with their family, and we have a physical proof of that. In this era only, 18 months, we are talking about just July 24 to November. Again, around 34,000 cases among these 15,000 were those where people reported that our child has gone missing. And with Punjab Police and Child Protection Bureau and everything with the social media as well. So we made it sure that they are returned, and 1,000 are still missing from that figure. And we have made it sure that an FIR is registered and the investigation is on a stage where the child recovery is ensured. Around 17,000 people reported us a child on a street. The child who's unidentified, that was reported to us. More than 16,000 have been successfully returned, reunited with their families, and more than 1,000 which have not been identified so far. Now we have a clear understanding and the mapping where they are now, whether they are at the Child Protection Bureau, whether they are at ED Center or anywhere else. Then we started a new thing in this, because once you start working on a project, then you learn the real challenges behind it. We noticed that thousands of children across Pakistan in orphanages, in centers, in protection bureaus are lying there since years and years, some decades. So we started a new project with the name of Mera Pyara, My Beloved. Mera Pyara is our part of our effort to work on all cold cases where children are lying, or now they are in major age, and they are not reunited and they are not known to their families since ages. And the highest number of years they were missing was 21 years. The last child which we had reunited with their family in Kasur was missing for 21 years. And we tracked her from Karachi. And if you just go to Mera Pyara page, it has a following of more than 10 million. And you will find that people commenting, people contributing, not only from Punjab, but from all cities of Pakistan. We returned a child to Kabul after 2 years.
Excellent.
What we did, that we had employed social media, and now we are running targeted efforts in targeted areas. If any child has said that I belong to Hafzabad, so we said Hafzabad 45 to 55 years male. So all Facebook, all TikToks were targeted on those areas. And believe me that just go to our page on Mera Pyara. In last 1 month, we have reunited more than 150 children who were missing since more than 3 years. So this is You know, you need to understand, sir, that the challenge is not only online,
Yeah, of
it's
course.
also a big physical challenge as well. So coming now after briefing you about VCCS, which is a virtual center for child safety, and it's a unique initiative. It has been accepted as one of the best international best practices as well. And Mera Pyara team. Now we are also taking, we are not refusing any complaint from any sort. We try either to resolve it at our own end or to process it with NCCIA or FIA, wherever the jurisdiction is. But in most of the cases, we do find our hybrid jurisdiction. That gives us a space of creative compliance and intervene in that. Because many crimes which we see are not only committed online, but as a combination of online and physical crime. So here the law gives us a space, and we try to capture that space in sort of a creative compliance. And this is a missing link because processing more than 100,000 cases is perhaps will not be possible with NCCI.
Yes.
And similarly, as you are very well aware of all the online abuses which have been reported to us by NECMEC, it's more than 2 billion. And only 96 FIRs were registered. So the quantum is very high. And we are now pursuing a Punjab Online Safety Act as well. And we are in a process with the Inspector General of Police Punjab, Dr. Usman Anwar, that we are giving multiple solutions on this level. So let's see how it evolves with the
So
process.
on that, I think we'll now go straight to Ms. Sara Ahmed on the. So naturally, the jurisdiction right now is federal. It comes to province or it doesn't, but child protection remains, entirely in your domain. So what all, where do we stand? What all has been done? And I mean, when does a child start slipping through? Or what happens? Where does it break down?
Thank you. Firstly, I'd like to say that it's a great honor to be speaking here on a topic which is extremely close to my heart since I've been working on it for the last 6 years in Punjab. It's extremely sensitive and also urgently critical. When we talk about child abuse, so my department, which is called the Child Protection and Welfare Bureau, it's the only department which is mandated to rescue a child who is subjected to any form of violence or any vulnerability, whether it's a street child, an abandoned child, a missing or a lost child, or an infant, for example. I've seen over the last 5 years, the trend has changed drastically. Initially, abuse was only happening in physical sense, but now it has shifted towards online digital abuse. In 2025, this year, beginning this year, there was a big ring of pornography, child pornography, which was arrested with the efforts of NCCI, Punjab Police, and there were 6 children between the ages of 6 to 10 years. This happened in Muzaffargarh district. They were subjected to pornography. They were filmed, and the videos was being sent on dark web. And these children, after the operation was conducted by NCCI and our police, Punjab Police, these children and CCD, the Crime Control Department of Punjab, these children were transferred to my bureau, which is the Child Protection Welfare Bureau, until the court gave a judgment on where they're supposed to go next. So these kids were being paid rupees 500 for an hour of filming their abuse activities. Whatever they were being exploited, it was being filmed and sent to dark web, and they were paid 500 rupees per hour. So basically, poverty, vulnerability is being exploited. Sometimes we see parents being involved. Parents do this willingly, and sometimes parents are being kept in the dark, and children are sometimes taken from the schools to such places. And this incident that I'm quoting is of 2025 this year. So these kids were given to the custody of Child Protection Bureau, where we rehabilitated them. So our department doesn't only give food, shelter. It's not just a regular orphanage, but we also rehabilitate the child. We provide them socio-psycho counseling. We empower them, and if they stay with us till 18, and if they don't want to continue the education, we provide them jobs also. So now our children are working in multinational companies. Some are in army. Some have become nurses. So all of this. Now, coming back to the topic of artificial intelligence and online child abuse. Your question was, sir, that what do we do, what my department is doing. So number one, we help with the rehabilitation, providing them shelter, that part, as an orphanage. Other than that, we also, with the help of course, Safe City Authorities, which is doing an excellent work, with the help of SN Younas' team, we help find the parents of these missing children and help reunify them. Other than that, the biggest initiative that we've taken along with UNICEF Pakistan, we're working very closely with UNICEF, and not just in bigger cities, but rural areas also. We're running a major prevention campaign, and a big chunk is called Child Online Abuse Prevention Campaign. So we're targeting parents, teachers, and children themselves, and then we're teaching them about these threats that they could face online, how they can be lured and manipulated. We're teaching parents also to keep a very vigilant check on the activities of children. So all of these, in fact, I have this handout which I'll share with you all as well, that there are 9 steps or 9 things you can do to keep your child safe online. These are for parents, right? We circulate these in schools, we circulate these with our seminars and awareness raising sessions, and we don't only target well-to-do parents, we go at the community level. We're going from house to house in these smaller cities, educating them, because now this gadget, which is our cell phone, which is the main interface, this is available with a child from a lower income class segment as well. So we need to target that. Right.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Zara. And yes, sir. Just sharing one small bit of information. There was one kid who came to the office of Director Cybercrime. She was around 16, 17. She was being harassed, blackmailed. She had already paid money. And now the perpetrator was asking her to meet him. And she came, the first question she asked was, "Will you tell my parents?" So, Dr. Asha, when a child does report, where does the system unwittingly re-traumatize them?
Yeah, if everyone can hear me. Thank you for having me here. I mean, first of all, with SLTs, I think it's really commendable that this is a topic that's picked up every time by SLTs, and I think we're looking at a very different aspect of it right now. So just coming to the question, I was thinking while everyone was speaking, we're talking about systems and we're talking about where the system has collapsed. And what I was thinking as a psychologist and someone who's been working on child sexual abuse and assault and rape for many years is, I'm not sure if there ever was a system when it comes to children that is now collapsing. AI is another layer that we've added to it, which has sort of increased access exponentially, the opportunity exponentially. But child sexual abuse, even in the offline world, there is still no system that fully supports children, that even sort of understands what the issue is. So we're talking about it sort of, it's almost like, many, many steps ahead when I think about it. But, whether it's trauma, whether it's understanding why children are sexually abused, what that grooming process involves, how parents respond, how schools respond, how society responds, how the overall justice system responds, we're still struggling with the sort of basic level of support that children and survivors of sexual abuse need. And what's happened is that the world has already sort of moved on. The system has already moved on. We're now talking online, whereas a perpetrator would have access to 1 or 2 or 3 children, they now have access to thousands of children at one time. So the system is already a broken system. It is already an inadequate system. There is no understanding of what kind of, we're talking about, I think, around what kind of information that sort of parents need. We are still at the very sort of infancy when it comes to what does consent mean? What does control mean? What does power mean? What is child development, and why are children particularly attracted to certain scenarios? Why is it so easy to groom children? And then specifically, what is it about the online world that makes it even easier? And why is there a particular sort of in a sense sort of an addictive element that develops with children's brains when it comes to online? And what is it that we as adults, schools, and even sort of parents miss out? Because one of the things that we were talking about earlier as well was parents and adults haven't really caught up. Children know much more about the online world than we do. And so it's sort of this additional pressure also on parents. Well, until we know what's going on, the system is going to continue to collapse in our very homes, and not just in the justice sector. So I think a lot of the conversation also needs to be around just child sexual abuse in general, and then what are the sort of other things that are happening online that we haven't yet even touched. So we have all of these systems in place, but I think some of the basics we're so far behind on some of the basics and understanding those issues that I think that we really have a very, very long way to go, even with these laws, even with the systems that are in place. So I think one of the things that always hits me when we're having this discussion, particularly around online abuse, is, children are constantly being traumatized and re-traumatized, even when it comes to the physical offline space. Online ka to I think hame abhi pata bhi nahi hai. Just the level of trauma and the way in which children are being engaged at this point. So the system, as far as I'm concerned, was never there really to even begin with. Because I think unless we start to sort of see that, for children online, for us, it's sort of like this additional, add-on. For children, it's their world. जो हमारे लिए playgrounds होते थे, schools होते थे, neighborhoods होते थे, for children, that's all online there. That is their playground. That is their neighborhood. That's their friendship, social circle. Everything is online. And I think until parents and teachers and sort of educators are in that online space, I think that system is going to continue to be extremely inadequate, and it's going to continue to let children down. So yeah, just to kind of start, and there's obviously a lot more that we'll add to it.
So, just to put this in context, ladies and gentlemen, the walk-in complaints about online child sexual abuse or child abuse with the National Cybercrime Investigation Agency in the last year probably were 250. One would think, very doable, even with 200. Well, the main source that supplies the instances of child sexual abuse to all countries is NCMEC, is an organization, the National Center for Missing Children, based in US, and they send each and every instance of online child sexual abuse to the concerned countries. Mr. Hassan Younas has mentioned the number, so did Omar. Till last year, it was 2 million. This year, it would be over 1 million. Over 1 million references connected with Pakistan. And to deal with those, we have just 200 people. And one man who has to go through that 1 million manually. So obviously, a very straight answer is deploying technology and AI, because you can't really deal with it otherwise. But then AI produces deepfakes. AI produces all these images, the synthetic CSAM. So on that, my question would be first to Umar, that what is, a safe, legally defensible way to deploy AI in child protection, and what must remain human-led, and how do we kind of, navigate between the threat and the promise of AI?
Right. No, I think helpful to just clarify a little bit of the NCMEC context so that we can figure out where AI is a potential solution, right? I think a lot of the conference so far has been about the risks of AI, and I'm sure we'll talk about that as well. So Pakistan gets 1 million referrals of suspected child sexual abuse every year, right? And they land on the desk of, as Humayun Saab said, one person, his name is Imran. Arguably, he has one of the most difficult jobs in the country, which is reviewing thousands of abuse images, abuse videos every single day, right? And it's humanly not possible. So last year, out of the 1 million, Pakistan was able to open 800 referrals. Okay, that's less than 0.1% of these cases. And to give you a context of just how complex this area can get and what the potential is, these referrals come from Facebook, they come from Google, but they also come from places where, as Dr. Asha was saying, it's where children play. So there's a game called Roblox, if you're familiar with that, yeah? So Roblox is one of the largest sources of referrals for child sexual abuse material. So you have adults communicating with children on Roblox or on PUBG or on Snapchat or on Instagram and pretending to be someone else. And so you get these cases coming in. And so one of the successful cases, there were 9 FIRs registered last year out of the 1 million. But one of them was from a village outside of Swat, right? Where this was somebody that was grooming young boys, so a male accused, but he was grooming young boys, promising them mobile phones and things like that, would meet up with them, would sexually abuse them, and then would post that video on TikTok, right? And so when the National Cybercrime Investigation Agency shows up at that door, firstly, they have to negotiate the cultural context, where often the abuse of young boys in some of parts of the country is not really considered that big a deal. But even then, for that person, our law enforcement agencies have the capacity that you had a Chinese-run company, TikTok, report this to the United States across the world, for that report to then come into Pakistan's FIA, and that leading to an actual trackdown of one person who lives in a village in Swat, right? And we can accomplish all of this in a couple of hours, but we don't in 99.99% of cases. So we've got the technology to do it. And I think the primary challenge is now the volume that we're talking about. And that's why AI offers, I think, the best utility. So if you have 1 million cases, it would take roughly 1,000 people doing this full time to deal with figuring out what is a crime and what is not. That's the workload requirement. And we have one guy and his name is Imran. So you need 1,000. And we have Imran who also does other things, right? And so we're in the process of deploying AI now that triages these reports so that at least Pakistan is reviewing all of them and is categorizing what is the most serious form of crime. But that's dealing with the current volume, right? And as Humayun said, so we're just starting to see AI-generated child pornography in the world now, right? And so there's 1 million cases which is not AI-generated, but the minute AI is unleashed in terms of generating child pornography, law enforcement agencies will be overwhelmed. There is no way to deal with this volume. And so we do have to find, again, AI solutions to identify what is AI-generated, and we do need AI to supplement law enforcement at this point in time.
So my next question is to Ms. Sara, that if we deploy AI in child protection, what do we do to maintain trust with families, with children, so there is fear of stigma, surveillance, a fear of AI generally, but we do see there is some promise. So how child protection would navigate that?
Okay, so firstly, of course, without AI, I think we cannot move forward, considering the capacity, considering how huge this issue is, and the capacity of our human resource and our resources. It's not possible to move on without using artificial intelligence. So when we're already using AI, by the way, at the Child Protection Bureau, because we need technology to streamline and to consolidate all the data of the children that we are dealing with, starting from their admission to their medical assessment, to their follow-ups, to their rehabilitation and all of that. So now the role of parents, of course, the parents would be apprehensive about where their child's data is going and all of that, and what is happening with that. So it's important to provide counseling to the parents, right? Number one, to bring credibility, to develop our trust in their minds that this data would be only used to benefit this issue of child abuse and your child. So I think parents need to be taken on board, and we're already doing that. And I think without that, there's no way moving forward. And I visited NECMEC myself because I went for this IBLP program. It was regarding another topic, but we visited NECMEC and they shared this data with us. And the person you're mentioning, the name, maybe this one or there's somebody else from FIA, and they themselves shared this information with me that the data is so much that is coming from globally that we're not enough to deal with them. So that's why it gets ignored. Yeah.
Yes, you are absolutely correct on that. And well, based on your experience at the Punjab Safe City Authority, sir, what is this promise of AI, and what are the perils, and what are the real world limitations of AI in detection, victim identification?
Sir, as Madam has very rightly pointed out that we need AI and there is no... Allow me to share a story. In last August, a father shared a snap of a boy with us that he is a special child and he has lost him. We made from Sialkot, Kent. I wish I could show the real snaps of the boy. The boy was hale and hearty and looked very nice. You cannot figure out that he's a special child right from seeing him. We made banners, we made announcements, whatever we could, but we were not able to find the child for next 30 days. We lost him on 30th August, and on 30th September, we received an alert from a woman in Mangla, Kent. It's around 150, 60 kilometers between those two places. And she uploaded a snap for which we had no record. It was the power of AI and FR which immediately matched them in 3 seconds that he is Ali. By just seeing them, because he had lost around 10 kg, he was in Tarar. You could not match these two snaps. I will share with you if you, afterwards, you can share with everybody. So that is the power of AI. That is the power of AI-related systems. I am nobody to undermine the perils related to AI. But I am basically an optimistic person and I need to see what are the benefits of AI at this moment.
Absolutely.
Because, you know, exactly what Madam has said and what Maniar Sahab has said, that the quantum is so big, you cannot handle it by ordinary human methods. This is for sure. Because the challenges created by AI and large digitalization are to be responded in that way. You cannot respond, it differently from your usual methods. So, as a first step, we have created AI agents for our traffic violations. So, in a whole day, there you can have like 5,000 traffic violations by manual or officers, by physical officers. And that AI agent can do the job of 10 people in 1 hour. So we are now trying to, if we are trying to get the NECMEC data, which has not been opened by anybody, and it's redundant data, we have offered to just give that data to us. We will put multiple AI agents on them, and then we will get across the first report that which are the real ones which needs to be, processed further or in any way. So I think at this moment, I'm very cautious about the perils of AI. We are not undermining them, but I think at this moment in our society we have more benefits of going on AI rather than thinking about more of the perils and being very cautious, because we have an overall very conservative approach of doing things, and once we fear something we don't do it. So I think we need to do that. And we were all predicting, everybody who was working in AI, that there will be a time that it will be an AI-sponsored cyber attacks. So you have read it last week that it has all started. But again, it has to be responded by an AI-related defense system. So I think we have a huge benefit of taking AI at this moment, while taking all possible measures of
Optimistic voices in a dark night. Dr. Asha, the psychological risks of AI surveillance of children's online lives and, their activities.
Yeah. Okay. So before that, if I could just
Please.
just take a minute and also talk about how AI can also, I think, support children. Since we're talking about that, I think we all know the perils of it. We all know how far it can go and to what extent it can contribute to sexual abuse, including hybrid forms of it. I just wanted to say, I think one of the things that we haven't yet touched on, of course, is the trauma. The traumatic effects of sexual abuse, and particularly online child sexual abuse, which are sort of, perhaps 10 times of what they might be physically, simply because once something is online, it stays there, right? We know about digital footprints, and we know that the ongoing trauma of that can be tremendous because it's not something, often as psychologists, we work with victim survivors and we talk about recovery. Ek cheez ho gayi, now how do we move on? But how do we move on from something that's still there and that's continued to going to continue to be there, and we don't know where it's going to go? So I think uska jo ek trauma hai. One of the problems I think is, and we were talking about this earlier, कि psychologists to mil jate hain, right? Every university is sort of at the moment, psychology is a subject. You'll get a psychologist that's working with sort of various departments. But the sort of training in trauma-informed practice is something that is simply not taught in Pakistan. And we know that even with the best universities, that approach to sort of dealing with trauma from a particular perspective, it's something that's not there. And there I see an opportunity. I feel AI, there are a lot of people, and I think in one of the panels we were talking about that, about how, a lot of people even sort of use ChatGPT as a, support mechanism. And it can be very helpful, but it can also be extremely dangerous. But what if we were to use that system and actually develop some sort of positive, supportive messages to be used by departments? Because one of the things that we see with victims of sort of online sexual abuse is the kind of messaging they're getting from their families, from the society, from the school, are extremely negative and disempowering. So what if we were to use AI and actually get those messages across in that first step, as you said, of the justice system, or, where there are actually victims who are coming forward or families who are being coming forward or being identified, and AI was to actually provide the right kind of messages that are trauma-informed, that are empowering. I think there's a huge opportunity in there to sort of work with a group of mental health professionals and to actually come up with a system where we don't have enough psychologists who are trained. And so why is it something that we can't do? Just coming to your question around the risks of surveillance, I think that's one of the things. Yes, AI can pick up a lot of risks. It can pick up grooming. It can pick up sort of words and language that are abusive and that are inappropriate. But what it also does is it also sort of, there's a lot of sort of control that can occur as a result of it, which is extremely dangerous. Children and young people today are also reaching out through AI for a lot of support around issues that they cannot otherwise talk about. And I think that there is a real risk when we use AI as surveillance, because I think a lot of those opportunities would be lost in that process. So there's a thin line always, and I think we generally भी हम society में बहुत करते हैं, we conflate protection with control. कि जी हम तो protect कर रहे हैं तो इसलिए हम इस चीज़ को control कर रहे हैं, phones को confiscate कर लिया, that kind of thing often happens in schools and in homes. And so we're taking very real opportunities for children to engage and actually learn and get support. And I think that's one of the biggest risks, that, if parents or schools were to start, imposing that kind of control around AI with children, I think a lot of opportunities for learning, for support, for engagement on issues around mental health in particular, would be lost in that process. A lot of marginalized groups, a lot of minority groups would also in this process become, I think, further marginalized if there was control. So I think those are real risks. I don't think that that's the solution unless we're able to kind of filter somehow, because there are also a lot of mistakes that are made. There's a lot of material that's picked up that's not actually abusive. So until we're able to perfect AI to that extent, I think there are a lot of risks when it comes to surveillance.
Right, thank you. And we have exactly 13 minutes and 22 seconds. We'll take the questions at the end. In fact, we'll try to take the questions at the end, but I have a very important question, the final question for all our panelists. We've looked at the landscape, how it looks like. There are gaps in, while the law is a bit decent, there are gaps in its implementation. There are problems of jurisdiction. There's definitely a big problem of capability and capacity in various organizations who deal with this. So imagine that we have 1 year. What one policy reform doable would you suggest to make amends in the situation or to improve this? Start with Umar first.
Right. So I think one distinction that we need to do away with now is distinguishing child abuse and online child abuse as somehow two different things. Right. So we do need a cohesive policy around children, but which treats all forms of abuse, whether online or offline, in the same way. And that will help us align our law enforcement response, our protection response, our education response, all of it around one crime type, which is child abuse, rather than whether it's been done online or offline. But that would be one thing that I would like to see.
Coming to Ma'am Sara, single most important step in your view to ensure real child rehabilitation.
So in my view, the most important step would be that a file which cannot close until the child, the victim, has been rehabilitated. Because what happens normally is that, intervention has taken place, child rescued, the file is closed. No. Until a child is back and reintegrated back into the society, rehabilitated, the file should remain open. And I would like to mention a very, very big milestone taken by the Punjab government last month, which is the approval of the first ever child protection policy of Pakistan. So this is the first policy passed by the Punjab cabinet, thanks to the Chief Minister Punjab. And this integrates all stakeholders working for children, whether it's safe cities, whether it's law department, police department, education department, all of that. And you will soon see its implementation also, inshallah.
Ahsan Saab, we know you guys can really upscale technologies, but which technologies would you like to really upscale to make this, look promising, the child protection?
So you have amended the question for me. for all of there is
You can
different
go on and
question
answer. You can go on and answer the previous question, sir.
So I am your junior colleague. I will narrate it in my way.
Please do.
First of all, allow me to share that within this week or next 10 days, we are launching a Safe City bot for all child abuse issues. And it will be excellent. Because now we have conducted a survey among good schools, and they all have the one question: will you tell our parents? So that bot will have the logo, I won't tell your parents. You need to share the problem. There will be a monitoring mechanism behind the thing. If there is something which is very glaring, where it is more than advice, we will intervene. So, but we are, because Gen Z is too inclusive, not exclusive. So they don't like to share a lot with people, and more like, as Madam has said, that they like to chat with the chat bots and chat GPT. So taking cue from them. So let's put our children on the board to share anything they want. So first of all this, and what I will like to address this in 1 year, I think that federal government needs to address this problem in a way that NCCI should see for level 2 or level 3 sorts of crimes related to child abuse or online thing and the cyber crimes. The level 1 or level 2 should be about women or child abuse or ordinary fraud. I think this jurisdiction should be delegated or shared with the provinces as well. This is of most important. Thank you.
Dr. Asha.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. I think what I would like to see is a truly preventative and trauma-informed national level a campaign. I think it's so frustrating the way I think psychosocial, mental health, all of these terms are used, counseling here, mental health here, psychologists, and to see what's actually happening with all of those for actually victims and survivors, and how they're not getting the support or understanding that they need. So I would really love to see sort of all of these systems there actually employ a real approach, which is grounded in theory, which is grounded in research, which is grounded in the local context, which works not just on cases once they have come for crisis support, but also on prevention. So understanding child development, a true understanding of child development, of addictions, of online addictions, of the sense of sort of a lot of sort of deprivation and support that children need, and then trauma-informed support. So something that actually incorporates all of this and is with a holistic approach is what I would really like to see.
Can we have question 2 up here, please? Can we have, we can this. So we do have some questions from the audience. We'll try to address them, but this one is important, I believe, that as AI becomes embedded in every platform children use, what new forms of exploitation or abuse are emerging that traditional child protection laws are not prepared to handle? Omar, you were first and then Sarah.
Sure. So this is going to be an amateur response because I'm not an AI algorithm expert, but I think it's important to recognize that the current AI system is largely private sector, right? Which has a for-profit motivation. And we hear things like ChatGPT's large language model and its engagement is being tweaked to make it even more compelling as a companion, as a friend, including sort of a romantic engagement with children as young as 12 or 13 or 14. And so we don't know where that's going to go. There have been documented cases of children committing suicide because that's the advice that ChatGPT inadvertently ended up giving them. And now when you're opening this up, sort of romantic engagement with AI, it used to be the stuff of science fiction and movies, but there's risks there. And so in terms of kind of mitigating that risk, we do have to hold the private sector accountable, and that will come through good governance. But that should absolutely, one of the central themes of that should be how do you protect vulnerable groups from the potential sort of inadvertent effects of AI. Yeah.
How do these challenges look for child protection law, which is kind of course, what do you see? Some new additions, amendments?
I think Umar has covered what I also wanted to say. The same thing I've heard about cases of people committing suicides because the bot basically was not a person, and when they wanted to meet the person, there was nobody. So I mean, these are really, really serious issues, and I think monitoring and governance, good governance, can solve these issues. Yeah.
Is this the next one? Yeah, so this is basically for Mr. Ashan Younas, but students age 11 and above get harassed by some Instagram groups called Confessions. What collective efforts will be made by Punjab government, police and Safe City? Let me just add a little bit to this at the very beginning that this right now is the mandate of the federal government and the National Cybercrime Investigation Agency, who do try to work around these, but we have already spoken about their capacity. They have very few people, and there are lots of problems around that. They are not even able to deal with the reports that they get, and this area involves them going into the web and investigating what is going on. Over to you, sir.
You know, the answer of the question lies in the question. What collective efforts will be made? They have not asked what you have done so far. So that gives us a good chance of starting. I think fundamentally the problem lies in reporting. If you report us anything, only then we act. This is how the traditional Sarkari method works. But since I have learned it this day, because we have a good team of AI experts, software experts, so I will try to refer them and see what we can do in this regard. At least I can generate an awareness campaign, or I can generate something or some guidelines for children of these ages not to go for this. And then we can also go to a PTA or a NCCI to block this report sites as well. So
Yes.
there are methods of doing it. So I think the basic start is that we do not have those good platforms where these children ages are reporting these things. So the missing of that platform is, I think, the biggest problem. Is that's why we have said that we have a virtual center for child safety. You can plan, you can say anything to us. We will listen and we will try whatever we can.
Would you like to add something on safe
just-
reporting lines?
No, no, I just wanted to add, I mean, this is not an answer really, but just a comment that it just reminded me, I think, this page, Confessions that you've talked about, and many other pages as well. I think it's a real tragedy in many ways that we have come to this point, whether it comes to online, but particularly to online, but to all forms of child sexual abuse, where children are more afraid to report out of fear of their own families than the offenders. And how did we get to that? where you're more afraid कि मेरे parents को पता ना चल जाए. So, even if something is online, it's such a tricky situation. You can't just go to a house and say आपके बच्चे के साथ ये हो रहा है, or this is what's happening, because the parents in many ways are actually more dangerous for the child, and or very often that's how it's perceived. And so a lot of cases are not reported because children are terrified of what will happen at home. They don't think, okay, my parents will be there no matter what. They're actually terrified कि अगर मेरे parents को ये पता चला कि मेरे साथ ये हो रहा है, whether it's assault, whether it's rape, abuse of any kind online, I'm going to get into trouble, instead of parents being the safe places, or teachers or schools being the safe places. And I think that's a fundamental barrier to reporting as well.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And reporting, and for that, prevention, awareness raising is the most important, and bringing confidence, to the child that his identity would be kept safe, and his parents or family wouldn't do anything to him or her. Yeah.
Actually, just to add, I guess, one final point to that, which is there are mechanisms that exist right now, right? So there is, the PTA runs a take it down portal where if there is content, you can report it. All provinces have a child helpline that you can call and seek advice.
1121. Yeah, if you can tell.
1121,
Yeah.
absolutely, right? So yeah, do try it out. I think the service is available. But the challenge again is that it's all of these things are scattered. And so how does a child find out about 1121, or how do they know how to get in touch with Safe City? And there also, I think AI can play an important role. So one of the largest increases in reporting of online child abuse to the UK's National Crime Agency happened because ChatGPT, in responding, so when a child says, oh, my video, I found my photo online, what do I do? And ChatGPT in its response would tell you, you can get in touch with the National Crime Agency. And so if we can build in some of our referral mechanisms into AI that way, I think that might also help.
That actually is very important. Another, although they are, they have lots of work, but if you just go on the website of NCCIA, that also gives you an opportunity to report a crime. There's a button which you click and you can report a crime. We can go on and on talking about this. It is actually a multi-layered problem which requires, response across governments, across the society. It really needs the whole of government, the whole of society approach, and it definitely involves making unlikely coalitions in the government, in the society, and to sustain those coalitions going forward. One final takeaway, तुमने ही कोई गलती की होगी, तुम्हारी गलती है. The days of blaming children, the days of victim blaming are actually over. We could have done that in another world, in another space. Not here, not anymore. And with that, I thank you all for being on this panel. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much.